Hello, and welcome to the Amazon Web Services Partner Webinar Series. Our topic today will feature Learn the Benefits of Running a Private Social Network on AWS. I'm your host, Sherry Sullivan. I'm with the Partner Marketing team here in Seattle, and I'd like to start with just a couple housekeeping items. We do make our presentation available on SlideShare as well as our YouTube channel post-event, so please feel free to check it out. And we also would like to remind you that we are recording today's session. We invite you to also submit your questions anytime during this webinar, and we'll take about 10 minutes at the end to open it up for Q&A. So I'm pleased to be joined today by our partner, TIBCO. Leandro Perez joins us from TIBCO, and he is the head of product marketing and social computing. We'll also be joined by Scott Barnumson, who manages our ISV partner program here at Amazon Web Services. Today's focus will primarily cover social networking within the enterprise and how it's unique, as well as some of the business benefits customers are realizing by using tibbr. And we'll talk a little bit about why AWS is the hosting solution in the cloud for a product like tibbr. And we'll wrap up with just a few moments of Q&A. So prior to getting started today, I'd like to just take a very quick poll and find out where you all are in your adoption of private social network. And if you'll indulge us and just answer the quick poll, and we'll show those results, and then we'll get started. All right, I'm going to flip to the results. So it looks like we have a wide variety of where folks are in their adoption cycle. Looks like a few folks have actually rolled it out across their organization. Some of you are joining us to learn more, and some don't really know what we mean when we say private social network. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Leandro Perez, Head of Product Marketing at TIBCO. Take it away, Leandro.
Thanks, Sherry. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So with that, I'm just going to advance the slides. And look, I'll probably take a quick pause after each slide to make sure that we're all caught up with what I'm seeing. Okay, so before I get straight into the content for today, let me give you a little bit of background as to who TIBCO is and what tibbr is. So TIBCO was founded in 1997. It's headquartered where I am today in Palo Alto, California. TIBCO aims to offer organizations what we call the 2-second advantage. And that's the ability to capture the right information at the right time and act on it preemptively for a competitive advantage. That's our mission. That's everything that we do here at TIBCO is focused around that principle. And what's very much aligned with that mission is tibbr. tibbr is a product, it's a private social networking tool. We released it just over 2 years ago. And its premise is that it puts all of the information, so all the people information and applications that a person needs at work right in front of them in a beautiful and simple user interface. And I'm going to show you that a little bit later on in my presentation. The idea is that when an employee has access to all these 3 sources of information, their work is easier and it happens faster and they're more productive and they're able to share and communicate with their team. We now have over 1.5 million subscription users across the globe. We have over 100 countries that have users in them. And it's changing the way that these people communicate, collaborate, share, and learn. So I've put up a couple of our select customers here so you can see the types of organizations that have put their trust in TIBCO and using tibbr to change the way that their employees work. All right, so let me take a step back and look at the space that we're in so that, especially given the poll, there's a large percentage of you that have not deployed this type of technology. And let me give you a brief introduction as to why we feel there was a problem here and why we addressed it with the tibbr tool. So I don't think that anyone would argue that social networking in our personal lives has completely changed the way that we communicate, share, and learn. I know myself personally that Facebook allows me to keep in touch with my friends and family who don't live here, lives in faraway places like Australia and South America. I keep in touch with them. I find out what they're doing. It's very much a pull mentality where they're posting information without me requesting it or without them directing it at me specifically, but I'm finding out what they're doing. What are my relatives doing day to day, who they're interacting with, what they're thinking, what they're talking about. So that's changed the way I communicate with those people. And then other tools like Twitter and Foursquare allows me to get my information from other people in my maybe more broader circles. I find a lot of thought leadership pieces on these technologies. I find out about items that I would not have looked for myself, but in my social graph of people that I follow, these people are talking about these things that I am interested in. And I find out about my news and all of these items through those tools. So what we're looking at is very, very easy user interfaces that are normally deployed now on all mobile devices. I've got a few screenshots here of the Foursquare, Twitter, and Facebook apps, not LinkedIn there. And this is how I access all this information. So I'm highly mobile. I'm tapping into all these very rich sources of information. And I'm doing that with ease, with interfaces that are simple. And so we feel that that has fundamentally changed what people do in their personal lives, and I don't think there's many people that disagree with that. Looking at some statistics, and I'll go through these slowly, is that social networking now, if you look at some of these graphs, is one of the most popular activities for people when they go online. Over 1.5 billion users, and that just keeps growing. No matter how recent this information would be, it's just always going to be out of date because it continues to grow and grow. And when we actually look at the demographics of the people that are doing this, it actually spans the whole spectrum. So people from age 15 up to over 55, all of them are increasing their percentage of usage of these types of tools. So it's no longer a debate of it only being a Gen Y or a Gen X tool and that the other groups are not using it. That's no longer true. Everyone is using this kind of technology, maybe not all on the same platform, but they're all embracing it. It's all growing. And even between males and females, there is equal interest there for it to be increasing. There is no one gender that really is not following this trend.
Hi, folks. I think we just lost Leandro.
Sherry, no, I'm still here.
Oh, you just cut out for a moment. Sorry about that.
Okay, no troubles. Can you still see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So just moving along back to the statistics, it's a phenomenon across the world. It's not something that we're seeing in North America and it's not happening in Asia. It's happening everywhere. So from North America, Latin America, Europe, and Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific, the statistics are off the charts. Basically every country, the percentage of users that are now online using social networking are in the very, very high double digits. So there is no pattern where it is only being used in specific parts of the world. So hopefully with some of these numbers, I've been able to establish that social networking has changed the way that we do things in our personal lives, and it is something that is not a fad, it's here to stay. So let's flip that conversation now and bring it back to why we're here today, which is work. So at work though, it's a very, very, very different situation. What are the kinds of tools that you have when you come in from that Sunday experience of using Facebook and Twitter potentially on an iPad or an iPhone or Android device to Monday morning? Most likely you have one or many intranets or portals in your company, most likely having sort of static information with little sharing capability. It's information that someone deemed was appropriate for you to see, put it up there at some point. Maybe it was long forgotten, hasn't been updated. Who knows if that even is the right information anymore when you go to access it. There is also most likely a strong culture of email in many of your organizations. You're probably using email as one of the main forms of communication and not always using it for one of the purposes it was designed for, which is short messages. It's sometimes used as instant chat. Sometimes it's used as tasks management. It's used as many different things to different people. And then I'm sure that you store a lot of important things on your own personal computer, and sometimes you might be using some tools to share that, but most likely you're keeping a lot of it to yourself. Maybe you've got access to a shared drive. Maybe you're storing some of it on a document repository or a content management system, but there's still a large percentage of your time is using files on your own that you're maybe not sharing as you're creating it. Potentially you're only sharing it when it's finished, in its finished state. So the problem with all of these tools is that there could be a large amount of out-of-date or duplicate information, from the portal not being updated to people sending around emails that maybe in the reply all they get dropped off from a chain of emails, or they get included later and they don't have the most current version of things anymore. There's no transparency across departments. If certain people are communicating amongst themselves, say in sales, there's very little chance that someone maybe in marketing or legal even knows what's going on there. And there's no real reuse of information. Your email when you leave an organization normally isn't kept, or when you join, you don't have the corporate history of what's occurred before you. An intranet or portal type technology is great for sort of sharing that kind of information, but most likely people only publish the end results of documents, not the in-progress works, the thinking, the creative side of all the elements that go into actually making something. So none of that is reused for other tasks. And generally there's very little creativity in any of these tools, as they're not designed for two-way communication. They're very single direction. Someone is pushing something when they think it's ready. There's very little feedback coming in. Potentially, if it was an email, there might be some feedback, but it doesn't go very far beyond the few days that email has its life cycle. So let me step back, though, and say that it isn't a matter of just simply bringing in what I was talking about before, Facebook and Twitter, directly into an enterprise. That would be the wrong approach, and that was the approach of some of the earlier style tools in private social networking, or enterprise social networking as the category is called, because you do very different things at work than you do in your personal life. At work, you're utilizing documents, you're sharing, but also working with a lot of people to create content, which is very different to in your personal life, where maybe you take a photo of a family member and just share that as is and can get the full benefit of it. So you really need to think about the way that you're going to implement such a technology. And that's what we've done here at TIBCO. We really thought about what people are doing at work and what are the goals that they're trying to achieve, and bring those benefits of an activity stream like communication tool like a Facebook or a Twitter inside an organization, but make sure it's applicable to getting work done. So with that, I've broken up a couple of the activities that you would do. I'm going to advance that slide. In the consumer life compared to the enterprise. So in the consumer world, or your personal life, you might follow friends or family. However, when you bring a technology inside the organization, you start to realize that even the concept of following people is different. You might follow your boss or management. You might follow your colleagues that you know directly. You might even follow people that you have never met. Because they are either doing the same role as you in another office, maybe they are producing information that is relevant to you. It's quite different to what you would do in your personal life. You also need to follow information, so those documents that are being created on the project you're working on. Maybe you're interested in HR policies because you're going to be taking leave soon, or you want to find out about the benefits program that your company has. You want to follow those actual specific items, something that doesn't really exist in the consumer world. And then applications. It's known that most knowledge workers use about 9 different applications every day. And you want to be able to access the information that's coming out of these things, or the updates that is coming out of these systems, in your private social network as well. So it's very important that you have that all coming into the same window. So maybe it is an update from a finance system, or maybe it is an approval that's coming through. And that's what leads on to my second slide here on this topic, which is that in the consumer world, you might listen to music. You might be following your favorite band. But in the enterprise, you need to listen for maybe changes in a purchase order that you're waiting on before you get access to that new system that you've been wanting to get access to. Or maybe you're in sales and you're wanting to find out if that sales opportunity that your direct reports have been chasing has been completed. So these are the kinds of activities that you're trying to listen into, and they're very, very different to what you would do in your personal life. And lastly, you might view a video and send a smile in your personal life. We're all familiar with doing something like that. But really, when you come to work, you need to be able to review documents, review notifications from systems, and actually take action on them. So a typical example might be as a manager, that you need to view someone's leave request form and then be able to approve it. And the picture there shows from a mobile. You need to be able to do it from wherever you are. It's not good anymore that it can only be done when you've logged in through a secure channel on a desktop. You want to be able to do that wherever you are, because we're increasingly mobile and maybe getting work done in between meetings or traveling to and from work. So with that, hopefully I've established the space a little bit, why we feel it's important, why we feel it's quite different to what is being done in your personal life. Now let's look at what we have seen tibbr being actually able to do for our customers, and I'll walk through some examples. I'm not going to mention any of our customer names for confidentiality purposes, but I will refer to what they've actually achieved. Okay, so expertise location. I'm sure that you're all aware that this is probably a major problem in any organization which has more than one office or maybe more than one hallway of employees. Once you get to a certain size, you don't know everyone anymore. And the problem that comes with that is you don't know who can help you. When I'm doing my task, who can actually help me achieve that today? Who can help me connect me to that customer that I'm trying to chase? So we had a large wholesale bank who changed the way that they attacked this problem through the use of tibbr. They have a role in the bank called a relationship manager, which is responsible for taking care of new customers that come in and actually satisfy them with their requests with a particular product of the bank. The problem is that sometimes these relationship managers don't know the industry that the particular customer is coming from, or aren't maybe that familiar with the complex product that the customer is seeking, because maybe it's a very specific issue that they're trying to solve. Wholesale bank has many, many products. So what would happen in the past is that a relationship manager would get this request, reach out to their personal network, pick up the phone, call a few colleagues, maybe send a few emails. And this process usually was over the time of about 3 weeks that they would canvass the results of, who can help me, what is the right product I should be recommending, and usually the result wasn't positive. If you think about it, most people only know a handful of people in the organization, and they're not really tapping into the full pool of knowledge in a large organization like a bank. So they thought there had to be a better way. So the way they approached this with the use of tibbr is that through tibbr and the social networking capability of it is that this request can actually go out to all of the relationship managers, and specifically ones that had actually had expertise in the areas of the industry that the customer was approaching, potentially the deal type that they were doing. So maybe oil and gas and a particular type of product in the wholesale bank. So they actually automated some of this and integrated it with their CRM. So when these opportunities came in, those experts could be found and they could be put together to work in a particular business unit. So they were a virtual deal team is what they called it. So they'd come together, answer these customers' concerns, close the business, and then they all benefited in the revenue of that sale. So if you look at it from the business outcome point of view, the wholesale bank now is able to close more deals in a short amount of time. We've got this 3 weeks or 2 hours type of paradigm there. That's actually based on some real numbers that we did with them. And then the employee, the relationship manager, is less frustrated because they now have more time to focus on keeping their existing customers happy and also fielding more customer requests, which is their goal, how they're measured. All right, I'm going to move along to another use case, which is around fostering innovation. So in this competitive day and age, I'm sure most of you out there are looking for a way to compete, a way to be, edge out the competition. So most organizations are looking to how they can innovate faster, but without growing their bottom line. Otherwise, it's kind of a catch-22 situation where you're putting more resources, but also spending more. So how do we tap into our single most important resource, your existing employees? So we have, one of our customers, very lucky to have one of the world's largest media research firm. And what they've done is they've utilized tibbr to spur that innovation process and to tap into the collective knowledge and wisdom of their entire workforce. So what they've done is, I've got an org chart here. Traditionally, in the past, most organizations looked to their thought leaders, maybe in the top level, 2, 3 down from below that, coming just above, the mid-level manager. So these people would come up with ideas, maybe funnel it up through structured means, comes up to some kind of board decision or CEO overviewing it, and then an idea would be taken forward. However, organizations like the one we're talking about in this example, which are very large now, global, bringing in new people every day, very smart people in every day, how do they tap into those people? So you can see in this example, I've got light bulbs even down from the lower level. Many organizations have new employees coming in that might be graduates, that might have just finished college, that are very smart, have lots of ideas, or maybe at a mid-level manager, someone that's come from a competing brand or has come at the problem from a different angle that your organization is taking with. And those ideas, though, didn't have a way to actually eventuate, any way for them to materialize into anything more than just an idea, an idle conversation. So what this organization did is they actually deployed tibbr, and they allowed any message on the network and anyone that's looking at that message to be able to say, hey, that's a great idea. And they called it Innovate. So anyone can look at a message and say, hey, let's innovate on that idea. And what can happen then is it actually goes into a structured list of things that people want to be able to put forward as an idea, and then it can be voted up and crowdsourced as to whether it's a good idea and more recommendations of how it can be attached. And they've basically created this whole snowball effect of tapping into the collective knowledge, taking it to the next level of getting some feedback on it, and then of course beyond that, the usual approach of making sure that they're picking the best ones, the ones they can fund, the ones they can execute goes on. But they've solved the problem of being able to tap into their smart people no matter where they are across the globe. And it isn't through a formal process of people actually submitting ideas. It could just be a conversation that's occurring. People talking about something and then a good idea comes up, and that's when someone can jump in and say, hey, let's innovate on that idea. Let's change the way that we're doing something there. So for the organization, this large media research firm, they can now innovate faster. They've shown me examples where they've been able to innovate faster from things like new product development, even paper saving measures, which is all leading to increased revenue for them and cost reduction. So a very, very good situation for them. And for the employee, they now feel like a valued member of the organization who can share their opinions and ideas freely, and all their ideas that they contribute are actually attached to their what's called a profile inside of tibbr. So people can see what else these people have contributed, and I'll show you an example later how that looks, but anyone that's received an Innovate thumbs up basically can show that on their profile, and that also taps into my previous example of expertise location, which can, someone can now be seen, can rise above the fold as being seen as an expert in that area. All right, moving along to my next use case, which is around employee onboarding. So I'm sure that you all bring on new employees quite regularly, and you're also always up with the challenge of retaining your existing talent. How do you maintain, in this very, very competitive day and age, your best talent? How do you keep them engaged with your organization? So we had a large consulting organization that basically was telling us they lose about 20% of their workforce every year just due to the nature of the industry, which when you think about it, 1 in 5 of your people is leaving every year, which is a challenge for an organization that's actually trying to grow its employees. And the bigger problem, more so than just losing people, is that these people are well-trained, have a lot of knowledge. So how do you bring someone up to the same speed, up to the same level within amount of time that it takes to train them is normally around 9 months. So 9 months before someone can be fully effective and be able to deliver the value that this organization seeks from their employees. So, there's a picture there of traditional classroom learning. Obviously, you've probably all been involved in some sort of official onboarding classes or, having internal trainings and things like that. And they're all still very relevant. But what this organization was trying to do was shorten that time and also ensure that when these new people come in, they have access to previous information that was around. So what they were able to do through the introduction of tibbr is allow these people to, on day one, be able to tap into previous conversations that have occurred on the network. So for example, a consultant joins on day one, they're assigned to client A and client B. They can actually go into these workspaces for these clients and start looking at previous conversations that have happened, documents that have been shared, and decisions that have been made. So what we can do there is that this employee on day one isn't just twiddling their thumbs, they're actually straight away starting to review content that's relevant to them. The next level is that they can actually start, they can start tapping into the thought leaders in their organization and people that are going to actually help them learn faster. So they can tap into people that are subject matter experts. They can start following these people. They can start listening in to what they're talking about. They can look at the things that they follow, the groups that they follow, and start to follow the same things. So what they were able to ascertain is that as opposed to being a 9-month exercise, they were able to hyper-reduce this to 3 weeks, where someone comes in and is able to be actually ready to go in a shorter amount of time because they're tapping into all that information that they didn't get when they joined day one with a blank email system before or an intranet that was only used for corporate policies. They could actually now join and look at existing conversations, shared documents, things that they had to do with this client from day one when they started. And they were able to start to connect and ask questions from the peers that they didn't even know before. Think about day one when you join, when you don't know anyone. Think about how hard that task is to start to build your social network at work in the physical world. It's very difficult. You need to either wait till you meet them at a conference, maybe you get introduced to them. Eventually you might meet them when you're at the customer side, but they were able to shrink that down. And it didn't matter whether their clients, consultants were on site or in the office. They were able to connect these people because of the mobile nature of the platform. All right. So moving along to another very, very different scenario here, which is around people engagement. So this is more around the softer side of, as the organizations have grown, usually we've lost touch with some of our employees. Usually when an organization becomes larger than 100 or 200 people, your upper level management no longer knows everyone's name in the organization. And I'm sure we've got people listening in today that are in companies that are much larger, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. So how can you keep engaged with these people? How can you give them a voice? How can you make it conversation two-way instead of one-way? So we were approached by a global airline who have a cabin crew of about 10,000 people, and their problem was very similar. They had this cabin crew staff that had no access to email. They didn't have them because when would they be checking email, right? They didn't have a computer to do that. They were working on airplanes. So what they had was a biweekly newsletter which was delivered to them to their home base station, which I think was one of 6 around the world. And basically in the time they had before they joined a flight, they were able to review things like, here's the message from the CEO, here's a message from the management in your team, potentially here is some new safety procedures that you need to be doing training on, and maybe a little bit of on the social side as well. There was an upcoming event or something like that. So as you can see, it was very one-directional. There was no chance for that cabin crew staff member to actually give any feedback to any of the items that they were reading, and it kept them isolated. There was no way for them to communicate with their peers. So through the introduction of tibbr, these employees now, through their smartphones and tablet devices, can actually receive this information in real time. So they can find out about a message from the CEO or a message from their management. They can actually respond now. They can ask questions. Maybe they don't understand what that message means, or they can just give it a thumbs up if they agree with it. So think about it from both sides there. The employee now has a voice. They're actually able to participate in a conversation with these people. It's not just a conversation that's organized in a newsletter or a once-off meeting at an annual conference. And the management also benefits. They can see, are they in touch with their staff? Is what they're saying resonating? Is what they're saying upsetting their staff? Which in this organization was very, very critical, because they tried to create a very family-like organization where everyone was treated with respect and with equality. So they didn't want a situation where a particular message or change in the way they operated would alienate their staff. So that was the first and main benefit, but then all sorts of other side benefits started to arise. So things like the staff sharing rosters with each other. Because before they had no way officially to communicate, some of them had started communicating in public social networks like Facebook and Twitter, which is obviously unsecured to talk over business-related matters. Now they had a private, secure channel to be able to talk about, hey, I received this roster for next month. I'm actually going to be away for that first week due to a wedding that I'm attending. Can I share that slot with you and I'll take another one? They never had a channel to be able to do that before. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, okay, well, if they had email, they could have done that. And that's true. But the issue was with that is that these people were receiving all of their information in one spot. They only have a few precious minutes between their flights, so they needed to be able to filter into what's important. So the corporate information they need to be able to read, and then they need to be able to have these conversations with people they know. So there wasn't any spam coming into their email. There wasn't anything there that made it hard for them to find these other people. They could see the photo of the person that they're dealing with and the location that they're in all through the tool. So for the organization, they've now been able to save on costs from printing and distribution by not having to do these newsletters, but more importantly, they're able to keep this very communal feeling to their organization and be in touch with their employees, giving them a voice. And for the employee themselves, they're now hyper-connected to their colleagues. They're very, very much more feeling like they're a valuable part of the organization and in touch with senior management. So I've got a couple more examples before we switch over to the next part of this presentation, so I might pick up the pace a little bit here. So this example is one around continuous feedback. So we've talked a lot about maybe some broader goals. Let's take a look at maybe a simpler one, which is the simple product of today's knowledge worker is that they're working but maybe not sharing. They're doing a lot of tasks within their department because it's been structured this way with the org chart. But there is someone on the other side, maybe on the other department, that is equally important to their success. Let's take an example of sales and marketing. So marketing, especially if someone's supporting in marketing a sales staff, is very, very much aligned to creating material that is going to help these people sell more. Very simple mission. The problem is that marketing may be creating a lot of their collateral or a lot of their messages in a vacuum. They're doing their best to address a problem that the organization is trying to meet in the market, and then they're translating that into brochures. They might be creating sales sheets. They might be updating the website. But in the past, there was very little interaction between these departments, which is very important when you think about it, because sales then has to go out and actually address the market and try to convert this awareness potentially into deals, convert this awareness into things that a customer might want to continue purchasing. So we had an organization that came to us which was going through a bit of a transformation. It was a very large advertising firm that was moving from paper-based advertising to digital, and they had told us that as part of this transformation, they really wanted to attack the way that they work. They realized that they could no longer work, which was the way they were previously working, which was that marketing would go and do their thing and then throw the results over to sales and have no feedback loop back to marketing to be able to improve and innovate in the speed that was needed in this day and age. So with the introduction of tibbr, and you'll see in this exact example that you're looking at, marketing now can directly push information to the sales team and ask for feedback. So there's a poll there. Marketing is actually asking specifically, can you give us some feedback either on this brochure, on this new campaign we're doing? And sales can respond. And you can see that people are starting to respond there and giving that feedback. And that can happen throughout the day from any device. The side effect, which they weren't anticipating, is that then sales actually started to offer new suggestions for marketing and new ideas that they could follow up on, which marketing really appreciated because it meant that they were no longer were tasked with being the only creative thought leaders in the organization. They were going to get some help in addressing things that people out in the field were spotting. So this very simple use case can be applied to any part of the organization, whether it's sales and marketing, whether it's legal and finance. There is all sorts of communications going on today in existing systems where there is no feedback loop. And having a system which allows people to join in on conversations that are relevant to them is really the differentiator there between the old way of working and this newer way of working with a platform like tibbr. Okay. This one is around process improvement. So when you think about processes, they're very, very structured, and they're usually measured down to the exact steps that are taking place. We had an organization, a very large US health organization, which came to us saying an existing process that occurs in basically every doctor's surgery around the US here is that when you go in as a patient and then the doctor needs to refer you onto a specialist, there is a particular step that's involved, which is the faxing of this information to the specialist doctor. And that's usually taken care of by an administrator in that health clinic, and that takes a lot of time. They have to get the doctor to create a letter, needs to be faxed, then the administrator on the other side needs to respond, then agree that that's been received. Very, very inefficient means when you think about it, when faxes are obviously not used in many processes in your workday, day to day. So I focus in on this specific example because what you can see is that what they're able to do is replace that with an online wall. So on tibbr, the doctor was directly able to communicate with the specialist doctor in a secure channel. So they didn't need to send a fax, and the specialist doctor could now come back and ask questions about, okay, I understand, but did you look at this, or should I be looking at that? And no problems, I'll be able to assess and be able to take this case forward. The benefit here that is not only that were they able to reduce the inefficiency of faxing, which usually they had dedicated staff, which cost around $70,000 per year. They were able to reallocate some of this staff to be more beneficial and do other things, like be able to take care of their patients better or be able to take on more patients. But for the patient, the benefit there is they can rest assured that their critical medical information, the referral, is now handled in a manner which is less prone to human error. And it's also going to be more securely transmitted than a fax, and they're also able to have access to that information as well. So this is a very specific example of process in healthcare, but if you think and just a little bit outside of the box, this kind of small change can happen in every part of your organization. Here, obviously, it's moving from fax to digital, but it wasn't just that. It was making it communication between several parties, making sure it was secure, making sure that they were able to exchange that information in a fast enough fashion that allowed people to collaborate around it. So if you think of situations like that all around your organization, you'll be impressed with the ways that a social network can change the way that things get done. And then for my last example for today, I'm going to focus on corporate communications, and then I'm just going to give you a little overview of the platform, just 4 slides before I hand over to Scott. So with corporate communications, and oh look, I think the arrows are a little bit off here, but you can see that it's a very typical task when corporate or internal comms wants to make announcements, and that arrow is just a little bit high. It should be pointing a little bit lower, but the announcement there on the right to the middle of the screen is corporate communications could be HR policy that's going out today around, when you want to take leave, these are the requirements around that, or expense policy if you're someone that has a corporate credit card. Here's the policy around it, and you can make that very visible on the tibbr platform. You also want to make it very easy for people when they come in to find things. So here we have a subject called human resources, which is basically a workspace for everything to do with human resources in our platform. You've got to make it easy for people to get to the files they need. Maybe I need to print a paper form around doing a leave request or an expense report. Maybe I want to actually read the document on my 401k. You need to be able to get to that very easy, and that little box on the bottom right there allows you to get to those files. But also, more importantly, because a lot of those tasks might have been done from your corporate intranet and portal, is real-time communication. Someone in HR wants to actually talk to their staff. Maybe they've got upcoming training on equal opportunity and employee harassment. They want to be able to push that out there, and then people might give feedback. Hey, you've planned that during our sales kickoff meeting, and we won't be able to join. Can you please reschedule, or can you please offer another time to do that? Things that before you wouldn't know who to ask, or you wouldn't know where to go with those questions. Now, everyone in that communication has a profile. People know who they are. They're not anonymous, and they can actually respond in real time. So with that, and I know I've gone through a lot of examples quite quickly to make sure I could give as much value in the webinar, I want to give you a just 2-minute overview of the platform. So here is what we're looking at is the desktop version of tibbr. tibbr is available on all mobile devices as well, so iPhone, Android, BlackBerry. But for ease of use, I'm just going to show you here the desktop. And as I've talked about all along, the main premise is that you want to connect your people to the information and applications that they use every day in a simple and beautiful UI. This is the main page when you come in to tibbr. And as you can see, there is a person here, Ram Menon, and this is his personal wall. Now, when I click on him, I'm actually able to see his profile. And the profile gives you a 360-degree view of this person at work. So it includes the corporate information like email address and location, but it includes all the more rich information like what does this person actually do? So this person, Ram, is able to put up a show reel of the types of things they do. Presentation they've delivered, maybe there's a video of them actually giving some training, maybe there is some data sheets that they've created. They're also able to connect it to a LinkedIn profile, so you can go and read about them, what they do and what they've done in the past. I haven't got pictures of all the tabs there, but there is a few tabs there which allow you to look at the influence of this person in an organization and what they're actually contributing on the network. Now, I've talked a little bit about these shared spaces, and we call them subjects, which is basically a contextual virtual workspace. It's a workspace where everything about a specific can be a project or a specific group is located. And this is a very important concept to the tibbr platform. So here we're looking at a try-win subject, which is actually a prospect or a customer. And this one pane, so you get to it from within your main homepage in tibbr, but it contains everything to do with try-win. It includes the documents that have been shared, the conversations that have been had, and integrations with applications that are relevant to this. So maybe Salesforce or a CRM would be relevant here because this is actually around a customer. And if you're using a CRM, you want to be able to get that information to come in here and map up maybe with your document management system, which stores your legal contracts, for example. You want to be able to go to this one spot and get all of that information. And as I can see here on the top right, I can see the people that are participating in this conversation. And you can't see it in the screenshot, but this is an activity stream that keeps going on. So I could go back to the beginning of when this was created, even if I only joined yesterday, and see the things that happened before I joined. This is very much like that consulting firm organization where we're talking about having one central spot to keep everyone up to date and also having new employees come in and be able to catch up on that conversation. And with my last slide here, in all of these systems, there is a lot of information going on. So what we've done is made it very simple to surface things that you might have missed or you don't know about. You know, what are the new documents that are added? Who are the new people that have joined your organization? Hey, there's some people in your personal network, you know, your colleagues that have taken a poll. Maybe you want to go and look at that poll and take it. So we've tried very hard to make it very easy to surface the key insights and obviously make it a beautiful experience. So I know I've gone through that very, very quickly, but I hope I've given you a taste of really why we feel that social networking has come about, why it's very different in the organization, and some real-world use cases, and a little taste of what the platform looks like. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Scott, and then I think I've got one more slide coming up after that.
Great, thanks, Leandro. So first of all, just want to say thanks to the tibbr folks for including us on this call. Really, the purpose of today is to focus on the benefits to your business on running a private social network. But we are going to spend just a few slides talking about why AWS makes sense as a platform to run these social networks, either hosted by a party like tibbr or direct in your AWS account. So in order to do that, we'll just talk quickly about some metrics around scale, some data points around scale for the AWS business, and talk a bit about the customers that we have to date, and then wrap up with how we think about security. So moving forward, one way we talk about scale is to think about the Amazon.com retail business back in the year 2003. So this is a $5.2 billion web retail business with close to 8,000 employees. And just for context, if you compared the 2003 Amazon.com to today's Fortune 500 list, that would land you squarely in the list around folks like Clorox or Harley-Davidson, Charles Schwab, and companies like that. So it's a meaningful size business. So if you picture that scope, that scale of business, the compute capacity required to run a business of that size, that's how much capacity we add to AWS every day when you wake up. So it's quite a scale business at this point. We're very excited about the traction we have with customers, and that's reflected in the amount of infrastructure we're building out. Another way to think about scale is what customers are doing with us. So S3 is an object storage service. It's where folks are placing things like files or photos, and customers that you see, Pinterest, Dropbox, Netflix, et cetera, are using this to store these objects. So over time, what you see here is accelerated adoption. So we were very excited earlier this year to announce that we have more than 2 trillion objects today in S3, which is a staggering number for us. And interestingly, we're also hitting over 1 million peak requests per second. So that's people asking, hey, give me that file that I've stored, or here I'm going to put another one in S3. So it's just another way of showing that customers have found the service to be compelling, and they're using it broadly in their use cases. Another way to think about the philosophy of AWS, so while we're, hopefully those data points help you think about the scale at which we operate, we also have a different, fundamentally different way of developing products and services for customers. We take a customer-centric approach, meaning when folks ask us for new features and services, we do the best we can to deliver those to market quickly. So the pace of innovation at AWS is quite astounding. We like to say at AWS that every day is launch day, and we're pretty darn close. If you look at 2013 year to date, we've had over 60 releases of major services or feature improvements to the platform, and you'll see that trend continue over time as we grow the team and grow the platform. The other thing to mention here is as we add new services to the platform and grow our scale, we have a pricing philosophy such that we want to return the benefits of our economies of scale back to customers. So we've now, in the 7 or so years of having a public-facing business, AWS has reduced prices greater than 30 times. And that's just something that fundamentally as a business we believe as we gain new efficiencies and economies of scale that the customer really deserves to get that back in the form of price reductions. That is how we run our business today and how we'll run our business in the future. So you can expect to see more of that. Moving quickly and trying to make up a little bit of time here, this is a snapshot of what our customers look like We're very happy to get positive feedback from companies of all shapes and sizes. We have today hundreds of thousands of customers spread across the globe in over 190 countries. And you may have seen today we announced our FedRAMP certification in the government space, which is very exciting for us. We already have great traction with government agencies with over 300 on the platform. And you can see here with some of the logos on the slide, we're starting at large companies like Shell or Pfizer and Unilever, and also working with some of the hottest startups like Pinterest and Instagram and Dropbox. So we love all workloads. We don't play preference to company size or use case. We really want to deliver services that help our customers and partners move their business forward. So customers have talked about, or customers have voted with their wallet. We also have Gartner giving us a nice position here in their Magic Quadrant, which I'm sure you're familiar with. This was the Magic Quadrant for Infrastructure as a Service. And you see AWS there in the top right quadrant doing well. This is simply one data point that shows that third parties are evaluating both our ability to execute and the completeness of our vision, and have given us strong marks on both. So, we're excited to continue to work with our friends at Gartner and the other analysts to validate this platform we've put forth. But this is just one data point that helps you understand the investments we're making in the completeness of the platform and our ability to deliver these services. And I just wanted to share before we get to security one other data point. This one from IDC. So we're indifferent and agnostic to use cases. We also work and talk to lots of analysts, as you could tell. So IDC went and did a study. This was actually a commissioned study by AWS looking at 11 of our enterprise customers. And the results were fascinating. The numbers are sometimes appear to be too good to be true, but I can assure you that IDC is very good at math, and these are good numbers. So the customers were finding that downtime was reduced by 72%. At the same time, they found a cost savings in TCO running on the AWS platform. The purpose of this is really to say, look, while we have customers and use cases of all shapes and sizes, ultimately what we're trying to drive is both cost reduction and productivity through a complete platform of services. So whether it's a private social network or another workload, we're focused on helping you deliver these services to customers in a reliable, cost-effective way so we can increase productivity. And finally, before I hand it back to Leandro, folks often ask about our approach to security. There are a couple different ways to talk about security. One is the track record that we have. So we've talked about the scale of the business, the number of customers we have, and that's one way of looking at our approach to security, in that we're focusing on this as priority one all the time, and customers have clearly gotten comfortable with that and moved a meaningful number of workloads to AWS. We're also working very diligently to add certifications and accreditations to our long list of security checkboxes. So we have a microsite that you're welcome to check out at aws.amazon.com/security. We've also recently launched similar for compliance at /compliance. And this is a great way for you to get comfortable with how we've invested in having third parties come and vote on what we're doing around physical controls, logical controls, physical security, and things like that. So we're very happy with our track record today. We'll continue to invest heavily in security. We recognize that without a highly secure environment, we won't have a business. So then there's a quote here from Pfizer that's interesting. What we're hoping to do with customers and what we're seeing with customers is that with the investments that we make, being the scale of operation that we are, with the investments we make and partnering with customers, we tend to find they can improve their overall security posture versus what they could do on their own, and that's really exciting for us. So again, thanks to the tibbr folks for including us on this webinar, and with that I'll turn it back over to Leandro.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up with this last slide, and then I'll show you exactly how you can get started with tibbr. So basically, I just want to leave you with one point, and it is that not all social networks in the enterprise space are created equal, and that's why we feel that you need to think of a couple of things when you're looking at any other tool, if you already have one or maybe you're evaluating some others, is that we've attacked the problem by looking at the user and the needs of your corporate or your organization, and we feel that we're one of the only, if not the only solution that looks at it from both of these lenses. You want to make sure that your user has an experience that's positive in terms of it's a simple, beautiful UI, much like they have in Twitter and Facebook, and is available on any device of their choice, whether that be the newest iPhone or a slightly older BlackBerry or maybe an Android device. And they need to be able to get access to the things they care about. There's no point just having another siloed for just conversation. They need to be able to tap into the files that they use, the applications that they use day to day. And then from the other lens, it needs to be completely secure. There is a few offerings that are maybe free or start off free. I'm sure that you value your information and that you value your confidentiality, and that when people leave that they don't have access to it, things like that. You need to be able to make sure that the tibbr is secure, and also the platform underneath it, AWS, is secure and has the right entitlements and controls in place. And then it's scalable. At the end of the day, there's no point deploying something if it's going to become slow, unreliable, and not usable when you add the whole organization onto it. And with that, I'm going to show you how you can get started here. So if you go to the marketplace and you search for tibbr, you're going to see 4 results. We have a few packages which are prearranged so that you can purchase in the number of users that you require. And that's the tibbr platform running on AWS, so you don't need to worry about anything else. And then what I want to do is once you click through there, you're able to continue, look at the pricing, and actually there's a little bit more of a description of what tibbr does, and you can actually check out a couple of videos as well. So the most important slide today is that I want to offer you is that you can always go to tibbr.com to learn more. We have some case studies there. We have some video testimonials that you can go and review if you need a little bit more information. You can obviously sign up at the marketplace like I just showed you. But it's very important that we have an offer that's bound to this webinar, is that if you go and sign up and then go to that Get Started URL before the end of the month, what we're also looking to do is give you a free session with one of our collaboration strategists. And this is someone that can actually get you started and rolled out. So you sign up, get the technology running, talk to one of our experts who can guide you in terms of what's the best way to kick this off. You know, things like you want to make sure you've got some executive support, set up a little bit of a structure to the content that you're about to release, maybe think about some things to get it going. We can give you that first session till the end of the month if you sign up and you get started by letting us know at that URL. Obviously, there is an AWS Contact Us information link down the bottom if you have any further inquiries about how to get signed up and have any questions around that. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Sherry, and I think I've talked a little bit too much, but can hang around for any questions if they're, I believe, going to be coming up next.
Great. Thank you, Leandro and Scott, for a great presentation today. I think you did a great job of giving us insight into how a private social network is unique and some of the sort of thought leadership around a cloud platform. And we are running short on time, but I would like to invite you, if you did join late and you still have questions, please submit them through your browser. And we'll take just one moment for a question here, Leandro. This comes in along the lines of from an enterprise company. We already have a SharePoint in place. Can you just quickly explain the difference between SharePoint and the private social network, tibbr specifically?
Sure, it's a great question. Tricky one to answer because there's actually a few different flavors of SharePoint, but let me answer it broadly, is that SharePoint traditionally was more a custom tool that you would roll out and make available to your organization, and you did need some work to actually make it work, right? It was kind of more like a framework where you would deploy it and actually then customize it to your needs. But traditionally, most customers have used it to store documents, give departments a place to give them a little home so that they could share some information. But it was very static. There was some social interaction capability, but it's not like what we've talked about today. And it definitely wasn't mobile. So what we have today is a tool that allows users to be able to get to the information from wherever they are and actually have a conversation where the document isn't the king. It's actually the people and the conversations is where the king and queen is, and basically they're able to attach documents to their conversation. So we've shifted the focus to being a more people and content centered item, and then the content actually comes second, which is the way that you would think about a normal conversation when you're talking with someone and then you share a piece of paper. You don't share the piece of paper and then have the conversation. It's changing the way that that works. And obviously that's a simple explanation, and we're more than happy to get down to the lower levels, but there are many of our organizations that deploy the two together because they have got value in keeping SharePoint to store their documents, and they use tibbr as the social layer on top of it to be able to have that conversation, be able to communicate around what is being stored in SharePoint. So more than happy to receive further follow-up if there's someone that actually has that need. And one of our account executives would be more than happy to show how the two can work together, or if you don't have SharePoint, how it could be looked at as an alternative.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank you, Leandro, for joining us for this Amazon Web Services webinar, as well as Scott Barnenson. And we thank you for your time today, folks. And please know that we do appreciate your feedback. If you'll just give us one more moment to take a very quick survey, we do appreciate your input to make our webinar series better. So that concludes today's webinar. Thank you very much, Leandro and Scott.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks, everyone, for joining.